Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson, and have you ever felt like you've sabotaged your transition? Sometimes I catch myself doing things where I'm like, Ashley, you have learned from this, and you're not going to do this because you want this, and you need to push things forward. So get up and do it. You ever feel like that? You ever feel like, oh gosh, like, man, had I have known, or I shouldn't have done that, or, I could have done that better in your transition, right? So I wanted to cover three main areas that I can think of right now that are kind of big sabotages in your transition. And I'm sure there's plenty more for me to go into, but let's do these three macro ones because I think they're pretty important. That's expectations, doing it later, and not enough self-care. Those are the three categories that I call them. So sabotaging your transition with expectations. So I think expectations is a pretty complex topic. There's many different areas. Like, how have expectations affected you in your transition, right? Like, has it affected how you perceive where you can go? Has that held you back? Has that helped you move forward? Has that disappointed you? Has that made you feel like you're not doing it enough? Has that made you depressed, perhaps, because you're not reaching your expectations? There's a whole bunch of stuff all balled up in expectations that can really make it hard, and you may be sabotaging your transition in that way. I see this all the time where older trans women will say, well, it's too late to transition and I'm not going to look very good, or I'm not going to pass well, and so therefore I'm just not going to transition. Have you said that before? That one is kind of a hard one for me to hear other people do, because the thing is, sorry to break it to you, but if you know you're trans and you want to transition, you're eventually going to have to transition, because the truth rises to the top, and the more energy you use to try and compress it and push it down is gonna eventually exhaust you. And at that point, you're going to have to transition. And then you'll say, well, I wish I would have transitioned earlier. And I can't believe the whole time was just because I was thinking that I wasn't going to look good, or, you don't even know what you're going to look like, honestly, because you can get surgery and you can do things to change yourself. So in using expectations where you can't meet your expectations, that's going to hold you back, and don't do that. That's terrible. That's a great way of just delaying your transition and making you transition even later. Right? On the flip side, you can have expectations where you're like, I want to be like this most amazing, beautiful, incredible woman that I see who's a celebrity that everyone likes to see. And that measuring stick can be so far from the reality that it can make you feel depressed, because it makes you feel like you're not getting anywhere. That, have you ever felt that? You feel like you're stuck, you're not getting anywhere. It's just not helping you feel like you're ever going to be attractive. You're creating this story that feels really depressing, because I've felt this too, where it's like, I'm not going to be attractive enough. No one's going to find me attractive. I'm not going to pass. People are never going to see me in a way that I want to be seen. Have you ever said that kind of stuff? I definitely have. That's the kind of stuff you also want to calibrate with your expectations, because if you set your expectations to be like this amazing high pie in the sky, like everything's perfect, you're going to run into a point where maybe because you're just not just exactly perfect, everything's wrong and it's not good. And I see this with trans women, maybe you see this too, where they can pursue endless surgeries to try and get that perfection, but it never is achieved. So how I would advise you to kind of think about this, where are you going to put yourself in this expectation, is have a positive outlook on your expectation, but don't set the bar super, super far and unattainable. Say something like, you know what, it's probably not going to be as bad as I think it is, in terms of how difficult it is, and I'm going to look better, and I'm going to try my best to look the best that I can, right? And you can use money. The great thing is you can use money to help you do that if you are also able to navigate your career and like be a high performer. This is a totally different topic, but I'll just say it right now. If you're trans, figure out how to use your brain and your perspective to be the most high performing, most incredible worker ever. That's indispensable, and that just kills it. And then you just get paid a lot of money and you'll do great. I just got a promotion last week, so I was like, yes, this is awesome. And it's really interesting. There are trans people out there that are super high performers. I'm starting to get a headache, which is telling me that I need to inject my estrogen soon. So I'm going to cut this short. The doing it later thing. So this is the doing it later. When I arrived in Berlin, I said, oh, I have 6 months of runway, so I'll do the estrogen prescription later. I'll do the surgery stuff in terms of getting therapy and all that later. But then later becomes even more later. So the opposite of that being, oh my God, I have to do all these things right now, and then you're in a rush. You also have to collaborate that to-do list. How's that been for you in terms of managing all of the things? Have you felt like overwhelmed when you started putting all this stuff onto your to-do list? And then did you feel like too much and then you would do it later and now you're delayed on some things? You kind of want to prioritize and balance how much you do it at a pace that feels reasonable, that doesn't burn you out and kind of take you away from your day-to-day work and other activities you have to do. Find that sweet spot there in doing enough and also catching yourself on things that scare you and that you're just going to say, I'm going to do later. And I think the worst one, honestly, have you ever done this? I'll transition later. Don't do that one. That one's the worst. And then the last one, and I'm trying to run through this because I have to pee and I'm getting a headache now and all of that. Do enough self-care. I need to pee, so that's my self-care right now that I need. Just take care of yourself. When I was on the Trans Lifeline, it was so emotionally taxing that we had a best practice to do self-care, to take care of yourself. Take a bath, do things that really make you feel better. And this is no different for your transition. It's all these ups and downs, and sometimes you can feel on top of the world, and other times you feel like you're at the bottom of the world. And you really have to take time aside and say, okay, screw your transition right now. You need to take care of yourself. I want you to take a bath. I want you to journal. I want you to just watch a movie and cuddle and be cozy and mix yourself some tea or whatever it is that makes you feel like you're cared for. What is it that you do at home or you do for yourself that makes you feel loved and cared for? Do that and create a regular routine where you do that, because the investment there will really pay off as you go through all these ups and downs. I call this the trans trough in my book, which you can get, by the way, down below. The trough is where most of your transition is, and it's the emotional well where you're going to have a lot of ups and downs, but it's kind of a long climb, and you need to treat it like a marathon. So stay hydrated and drink your water. So I'll keep that short for today. Please like and subscribe. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, please do that. I have a shout out to my $20 patrons: Freya, Jay White, Sarah, Lexi, Lori, Kara, Leah, Raharabin, and Ayla. Thank you so much for supporting me at the $20 tier, and I'll see you in another episode soon. Bye.